Hello YouTube! So we all know Jordan Peterson is good with words, and that he is very smart, and that he can also answer people's leading questions very quickly and cleverly. In this video, we'll take a look at Jordan Peterson's best moments. Enjoy! So starting off, we can see Jordan giving a speech, and he's talking about suffering and oppression. In this clip, we can see that Jordan is quite passionate on the subject.
So let's fix all your oppression. And we'll take every single thing into account, and then we'll fix yours too. We'll take every single thing into account. It's like, no, you won't, because you can't. You can't. It is technically impossible. First of all, you can't even list all the ways that you're oppressed. Second, how are you going to weight them? Third, who's going to decide? And that's the bloody thing. Who's going to decide? That's the thing.
As you can see, Jordan is trying to explain that we can't even list our suffering. What he says next, however, will make you think. He explains how maybe this suffering might be even slightly good, because all of our actions won't actually matter.
You overcome the suffering of life is be a better person. That's how you do it. Well, that's hard. It takes responsibility. And I think, if you said to someone, you want to have a meaningful life? Everything you do matters. That's the definition of a meaningful life. But everything you do matters. You're going to have to carry that with you. Or do you want to just forget about the whole meaning thing, and then you don't have any responsibility because who the hell cares, and you can wander through life doing whatever you want, gratifying impulsive desires.
In this second clip, Jordan Peterson is in an interview, and he gets asked the all too infamous question on his thoughts regarding males and females. Jordan tells the interviewer that there are uncontrolled women, and the interviewer doesn't believe it.
It's funny, I mean, you described yourself as a liberal earlier, and I think a liberal doesn't think that a society controls women or men.
Well, let's say regulates. I'm a psychologist as well.
But what is an out-of-control woman? What is this creature? How do we know when we met one?
Well, I'm sure that you've met women in your life that acted towards you in a bullying and detestable manner. It's very difficult for women to cope with that because they don't have any real recourse. And female bullying can be unbelievably vicious. And usually that takes the shape of reputation destruction, innuendo, and gossip.
The interviewer then asks Jordan how he thinks it is that women attack, and Jordan tells her what science says, and still she doesn't believe it.
Go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
And just to be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
It isn't that I think that.
Well,
it's that the clinical literature indicates that. It isn't that I think it.
Well, I'm not interviewing the clinical literature. I'm interviewing you. What do you think?
Well, I'm a psychologist and a scientist, and I tend to base my opinions on what I've read in the broad, relevant clinical literature. I'm not making this stuff up.
In this next clip, Jordan Peterson is in what seems to be a TV show, answering why he doesn't use LGBTQ+ pronouns. One of the panelists for using the pronoun tells Jordan that there is no such thing as biological sex. Jordan seems confused at this man's views.
Basically, it's not correct that there is such a thing as biological sex, and I'm a historian of medicine. I can unpack that for you at great length if you want, but in the interest of time, I won't. So that's a very popular misconception.
All right, I think we've set the table now. You want to get in on this now, I can tell. You've heard what the professor has to say. What's your response?
Well, I don't understand what the claim that there's no such thing as biological sex means, and I certainly think it's, let's call it an error, to suggest that there's some sort of scientific consensus about that. I mean, there's biological differences between males.
In this next part, the man accuses Jordan of abusing students by not using the pronouns they want to be called, and how Jordan is denying their humanity by doing so. Jordan doesn't believe so, and even believes that in a couple of years, these conversations will not be held.
Accused him of abusing students by not using the pronouns they want to be addressed by.
That's how I see it, absolutely.
That is tantamount to abuse in your view?
Absolutely. Many global documents, many organizations.
How about violence? Is it tantamount to violence?
Yes,
How about
absolutely.
hate speech? Is it tantamount to hate speech?
Yes, of course. It's hate speech to tell someone that you won't refer to them as in a way that they that recognizes their humanity and dignity.
I mean, one thing that happened right when we started this was that there was an initial claim, for example, that there's no such thing as biological sex. Well, I believe quite firmly that if we continue on our present path at the universities for 5 more years, that's a discussion we will not actually be able to have.
Here we can see Jordan Peterson was in an interview with GQ, and the interviewer presents the idea of acrimonious divorce, which is when the couple doesn't pledge abuse, and Jordan doesn't like the idea.
I think anything that makes them easier is a very good idea. It might be good in the short term, but it's not good in the long term. Unless you don't think that marriage is a useful institution. And if you think that it's part of the patriarchal tyranny, then you might think that as well. So, but it's a very useful institution, mostly for kids. So
I agree that I'm married. Modern marriage has a lot to recommend it. I do also think it is a patriarchal institution. It is literally...
Of course you think that,
well,
because you think virtually everything that occurs in our society is a patriarchal institution.
In this next part, we can see Jordan telling the interviewer that her thoughts are predictable, and she tells him that is good, because it means that she has a coherent idea. Jordan then explains why this predictability is undesirable.
Yeah, that something should be consistent. You were talking about the necessity for consistency in ideology. It's like, I'm not hearing what you think. I'm hearing how you're able to represent the ideology you were taught. And it's not that interesting because I don't know anything about you. I could replace you with someone else who thinks the same way. And that means you're not here. That's what it means. It's not pleasant. So you're not integrating the specifics of your personal experience with what you've been taught to synthesize something that's genuine and surprising and engaging in a narrative sense as a consequence. And that's the pathology of ideological possession. It's not good. And it's not good that I know.
In this final clip, Jordan Peterson is giving a lecture on how to be successful. The first subject he touches on is IQ, and then gives some important life advice. Here he tells us that in order to be successful, we must have clear goals to follow.
Aspects of conscientiousness, say orderliness and industriousness, the better predictor is industriousness. So the question is, well, what can you do about your industriousness? And the answer to that is, well, that's kind of rough too, because there's a strong genetic component. But you can work on micro habits with regards to your conscientiousness. And I think the best micro habits, this is partly to do with this future authoring program processes, I think the best thing you can do with regards to your conscientiousness is to set up some aims for yourself, goals that you actually value.
Then he gives us some more advice. If we're going to be scheduling, then we have to schedule the kind of life we want, in the short term and long term.
That's the first thing that people do wrong. They say, well, I don't like to follow a schedule. Well, it's like, well, what kind of schedule are you setting up? Well, I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, and then I just go play video games, because who wants to do all these things that I have to do? It's like, wrong. Set the damn schedule up so that you have the day you want. That's the trick. It's like, okay, I've got tomorrow. If I was going to set it up so it was the best possible day I could have, practically speaking, what would it look like?
So this has been all for today. As we could see, Jordan can not only answer lead questions cleverly, but can also give powerful life advice. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you do not miss our next videos. And since you're here, why not click one of the videos on the screen right now? We'll see you guys next time.